All right, guys, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your weekend, your extended weekend, because you had yesterday off. Um, so by now, you guys have probably heard that we are not going to be going back to school for the rest of the school year, or at least not physically. We're just going to continue this e-learning thing, which honestly kind of sucks because I do enjoy seeing you guys. Well, some of you guys, not all of you. I'm just kidding. Anyways, so continuing the trig chapter, day 3, we're going to do what's called coterminal angles. But rather than just tell you what coterminal angles are, it's easier if you just have a visual. So I have on this slide 3-degree measures, so 40 degrees, 400 degrees, and negative 320 degrees. At first glance, nothing really seems special about them. They're just random degree measures. But here is why these 3 angles are considered what's called coterminal. So the easiest way is just if I show you. So let me just write in the degrees. So this is 0, 90, 180, 270, and a full rotation would be 360. So 40-degree angle then would look like this. So it'd be between 0 and 90, kind of pretty much halfway between. So it would look something like this. Then if I draw a 400-degree angle, well, again, let me write in the angle measures. So this is 0, 90, 180, 270, 360. So a 400-degree angle is farther than one full rotation. So you're going to go full way around, and then so you'll start here on the initial side, but then you'll go all the way around, and then you'll end up right about here, because 40 degree or 400 degrees is 40 past 360. So 40-degree angle looks kind of like this. A negative 320-degree angle, well, let me write in the negative degrees. So this is 0, negative 90 is down here because it's backwards, negative 180, negative 270, and then a full rotation would be negative 360. So if I draw a negative 320-degree angle, I would start on 0, and then you would make almost a full rotation, but not quite. So it would look like this. You would start here, you would end up here, but then when you draw the angle, negative 320 is between 270 and 360, so it's like right about here. So when you make that rotation, it looks like this. So looking at these 3 angle measures, 40 degrees, 400 degrees, and negative 320, what do you notice about them? They look the exact same. Now some of them only took a small rotation, like the first one only rotated a little bit. Then the 400 degrees took a full rotation, past a full rotation, and then the negative was backwards. But regardless, they all look the same as their end result. They all ended or had their terminal side in the same place. So that's what coterminal means. Coterminal is angles that have different degrees, but they all look the same. So here's a definition. Let me delete this. So angles that look the same when you graph them, but they have different degree measures. Now, how can I find these without having to graph it every time? Well, it's pretty simple. So I started with the 40 degrees, and to get to 400 degrees, if you start with 40, if you add 360 to that, you end up getting 400 degrees. Now, why 360 degrees? Well, what is 360 degrees? It's a full rotation, exactly. So since it's a full rotation, all I'm doing is I'm doing the 40 degrees, but then I rotate it all the way around past the 40 degrees, you end up in the same place. You can do the same thing to get a negative degrees. So I started with the 40, and then I minus 360 instead of adding, and then I got negative 320. So by adding and subtracting 360, so by just basically adding or subtracting a full rotation, I end up back in the same place. So that's how you find coterminal angles. You add or subtract 360 degrees one or more times. And make sure you pay attention to the one or more times, because sometimes you'll just add or subtract once, but other times you have to do it more times. All right, so now let's just practice finding some coterminal angles. So I'm starting with 120 degrees. So if I start with 120 degrees and I want to find the directions, say find one positive and one negative angle that is coterminal to the one that was given. Well, we're given 120. If I want to find a positive one that looks the same as a 120 degree angle, so I just add 360 to that, add 360, and I end up getting, what, 480? So 480 degrees is a positive degree that will look the same as a 120. Now, if I want to find a negative one, though, I'll start with the 120, but then I will minus 360 from that. Minus 360, and I think that's negative 240. So there you go. There's a negative 240. So what I've just done here is I have found other degrees. So the 120, the 480, and the negative 240, these are all degrees that if I were to graph all of them, they would look the exact same. They would all end up in the same place. With the 380, so I'll start with the 380 degrees. I want to find a positive degree that's coterminal with this one. So like before, I will add 360 to that. It's always 360. It's never any other degree. So it's not like you're ever going to add 180 or anything like that. When you add those together, I believe you get 740 degrees. So there's a positive, just like me. I'm a positive person. And then to find a negative, I will take the 380 and I will minus 360 like before. And then I get 20. Now, here's the issue. 20 is not a negative degree measure. So while 20 degrees will look like a 20 degree angle, does look like a 380, and it does look like a 740, that's not a negative angle. So then that means I need to take the 20 and subtract 360 again. And you could minus 360 or add 360 as many times as you want. You could keep adding it 10, 20, 40 times. You'll still get degrees that look the same. So I took the 20, subtracted 360 again. That gives me negative 340. And there is an angle that is negative that looks the same as 380. The last one is negative 600 degrees. So again, to find a positive one, I will add 360 to that. So add 360, I get negative 240. So negative 240 degrees is still not a positive degree. So that means I'm going to have to add 360 again. So add 360 and you end up getting 120. Positive 120. So now after adding 360 twice, now I've gotten a positive degree. As for a negative, I could take the negative 600 and minus 360 if I wanted to, and that would give me negative 960. So that's an example of a negative degree that is coterminal with negative 600. Or, I don't know if you noticed this, but when I got the negative 240, there's also another negative degree that also is coterminal. So that would also work. So all of these are examples. Now I'm just asking you to find one of each. So one positive, one negative. The reason why we find coterminal angles is because of this. So if I tell you to graph negative 600 degrees, for some of you guys, you're gonna be able to figure it out. But for others, and for me sometimes, I don't know what a negative 600 degree angle looks like. So then what I do is I add 360 a couple times, and then I get this negative, or this 120 degrees, and that I do know how to graph. Since they would both look the same, I can graph a 120 instead of a negative 600, and I'd end up with the same result. So that's why we do coterminals, just to make it easy to graph weird angle measures. All right, here's your homework. So you have these angles that you're given, and for each one I want you to find one positive degree that looks the same as that one and one negative that looks the same.